Hi, this is Jim Steinmeier. Welcome to the May issue of Genii magazine. The issue has just gone off to the printer, so it's a great time to talk about what you're going to find inside. Let's talk about what you'll find on the outside. Our cover story is about the first ever Mystify convention that was held last month in Las Vegas. We have an insider's view from Rebecca Spector. She's done an amazing job of giving us an account of that new convention that was organized by Leah Orleans and her team. And there's no question that it made headlines. Um, I think you'll probably remember the first Magic convention you went to and how exciting that was. You might have been to some first time conventions with a new feeling and a new audience, and you know how exciting that is to be there. But this group has done an amazing thing by setting their goals very high at the beginning and by appealing to a new audience, people that didn't always feel invited to a Magic convention before. And there's no question that they made an impact and that that audience had a great time. So spend a few minutes, please read that. I think you'll find it a great story. I wrote a couple stories in the magazine this month as well. One is about Higa, a very highly respected Chicago performer, Bob Higa, who has been working for the business world for years by bringing magic shows to them and making special points about the connection between magic and business. He explains how that all came together. He explains what he's been working on and what he's been doing. And I think you're going to have a great time reading that. You'll also get a chance to watch some video that's linked to that story. Take advantage of that because it's a rare opportunity to see Higa perform his specialties. I also wrote an article in this month's issue called Max Talks to Balsamo. It's an unusual story about Max Maven and T.A. Waters and a mechanical device called Balsamo that also talks about a great historical magician, Josephi. It's about a one-time only performance that took place and how it changed the people that were involved and also how it changed the perceptions of the audience. So you'll enjoy that. Special offer inside this magazine. I want to point that out to you before the month is over. Our subscription rates are going up. It had to happen. We've been warning you about that. It's a necessity, unfortunately, because of costs that have been going up over the last 14 years. But you can take advantage of this. You have an insider's point of view right now. You have an insider's position, and you can subscribe at the current rate, but time's running out. So please look at the ad on our inside back cover, contact our business office and ask about it. And we want to have you here, and we want to have you part of the Genii group and part of the Genii team and enjoying the work in our magazine. To that end, I'd like to introduce some videos that I'm going to finish with. You're going to have a chance to meet Vanessa Armstrong. Vanessa is, among many other positions in the magazine, she is the editor of The Eye. So she's dealing with magic news stories all the time. And I thought it would be interesting to ask her about news in the magic world and how that best reaches people in the print media and how that best reaches people online. In other words, if you're interested in publicizing something, if you're interested if you're in a situation where you have to have a story generated, what's the way to appeal to those people and what is the way to put that together? Vanessa's always interesting and does an amazing job, and I think you'll enjoy your time with her. If you've never met her, you'll enjoy meeting her. And finally, I spent a few minutes with Dave Egan. You've probably heard about the Di Vernon Foundation in the last few months because they've been in our magic news dealing with the LA fires. The Vernon Foundation is a great group, a charitable group that helps magicians in need under dire circumstances, sometimes with very simple things, but the story of that group is amazing. If you're looking for a great story to make you feel better in the world of magic or just make you feel better about humanity in general, listen to what Dave Egan has to say about the Vernon Foundation, and I think you'll find that story there. So we're going to end with those videos. We'll see you all next month. Thanks for your continued interest. Goodbye. Okay, I'm talking to Vanessa Armstrong, who you probably know is our editor of The Eye. And I have to confess to begin with that I'm a big fan of The Eye. I was a big fan of The Eye before this started. I was a fan of The Eye when Chloe Olwitz was the editor of it originally, and then Vanessa took over. And I've always been impressed, even before I started with Genii, with the idea of this kind of repository of magic news being represented and given to the readers. It's just a great feature of the magazine. So I've had a chance to work with Vanessa. I'm still slightly mystified about how she does it. And I shouldn't be saying that as the editor. I'm supposed to pretend like I understand this all. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to talk to her because you've been reading what she's done. And I'm very curious, Vanessa, when you start, each month, do you ever wake up and think, God, I hope something happened last month that I can write about? Or are you swimming in information and you get to pick and choose? Where are all these things coming from that get turned into the eye?
Yeah, well, it can be either of those things. Either I feel like I'm swamped or I feel like there's nothing. It just depends on the given month and what's going on. So it's never consistent in that regards,
Right.
for better or for worse. But there are a few ways where I find the information. One is, which I'll plug up front, is we have an email specifically for the eye, which is telltheeye@gmail.com. So if anyone out there has any magic news they see or anything they think might be a good fit for the eye, that's a place to send the details. That can just be like a quick note of you saw an article or if it's a show you're personally doing, just like very quick details on it. It doesn't need to be a written piece, but just that's definitely one venue where I get stories from. The other is, frankly, just Google search is your friend. I have some keyword searches that I just have, and so when any article comes up that has specific words, I go through them to see if there's anything that's the magic that we're interested in, not Harry Potter or something like that.
Right.
So that's probably the second tranche, and the third I think is just social media. So my own personal social media, I connect to a lot of magicians, and I just come across things through that way as well. And entertainment as well. So my other job, Genie is one of my many jobs, but I'm a freelance entertainment reporter and editor. And so I get a lot of press releases on the entertainment side of things like TV shows that sometimes are applicable to the eye as well. And I pull from that.
Right. Now I get to hear you talk about stuff as it's in development. And so sometimes I'll hear you say, oh, I was sent a press release, or oh, I saw an article, or oh, someone contacted me. I can hear different sources. How much are those things followed up? Do those go directly into something being written? How much are you rewriting? In other words, what is it? How do those branch then and become the stories?
Yeah, so usually over the course of a month, the first few weeks, I just collect everything I see. I don't tend to write in advance because I don't know what necessarily will make the final cut of the eye. Um, and then usually about, I should have said it's a week. I should probably tell you it's longer, but it's about a week
Right.
before it's due.
Right.
I look at what I have and see what would be a good fit. And there are certain things like, especially if there isn't like an existing article from another news outlet, where I might want to do an interview. Um, so for example, I think in the upcoming I have a piece about this show in Canada called Magic and Shenanigans, which is a walking tour.
Right.
And I actually heard about that through fellow editor Chloe Olowitz, who found out about it from Billy Kidd, who she's connected to, who is organizing it.
Right.
And so since there wasn't really at the time any external information about that beyond the website, so I actually just did a quick brief interview with Billy just to get the details of that. Um, so it's basically I try to get at least 1 to 2 pieces a month where I do like a little bit deeper dive with an interview. And so those are consider my anchor. And then from there, I see what seems interesting and is a good mix of stories, or might pair well in terms of, is complementary to other segments within the article.
Right. Right. So I know um, every magician at some point in their life needs a little publicity or feels that they have a need for publicity, which is probably a slightly different thing than when they actually deserve it or when they need it. But sometimes a show is coming up or a special event is coming up or a special project, and people go, "Oh, if I could only just get a little bit of publicity." And I know there are people out there like you, not just for the eye, but also for your other entertainment features that are looking for the stories, that are looking for opportunities to write about things. So how do those things connect? We talk about press releases, and I know everything's changed a little bit with the internet and in terms of online materials. What's a press release? What is it that people are trying to do when they give you a lead to a story, and what's the best way to make that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing about a press release is that it has to be easy to read, like a quick read. So if you're sending an email to someone, for example, they're like I, for example, probably get between like 50 to 70 press releases a day in my inbox
Yeah.
for various things, not magic things, yet.
Right.
And and you're going through them in an email as an editor, you're scanning. You're not like reading word for word what they said. So the quick thing I think is helpful to have in a press release is sort of like a bold headline about what the act is and why it might be interested in that specific outlet. So if it's a local show, for example, it might be, you know, downtown LA show in the revitalized building, et cetera, et cetera. Something that would you think the outlet would be drawn to beyond your specific event.
Right.
Um, and then after that, like very brief, I find personally, and this is echoed by colleagues I know, is that having a copy and paste article is not the way to go.
Right.
Most if not all outlets don't like to do that. What is helpful is two, three sentences, very succinct about what it is, and then having 1 to 3 quotes from someone involved. So the quotes, like within quotations,
Right.
says so and so magician who's running the show from X and Y Z date. So quotes are helpful that describe the act or describe why it's interesting. So you can pull that specific quote out of the press release.
Right.
And then assets, photo assets, video assets.
Oh,
So
interesting. Yeah. Right.
so if they're a publication online, they need a pretty photo to go with that, with credit attribution, please. That
Right.
goes for Genii as well.
Yeah.
So it's easy, you can just take that photo, plop it in the story. It makes it easier for the person who's editing or writing it. And also potentially, if you're doing something like a TV thing, like having a reel, just to show that you're like a real magician, if that makes sense. Like, so they can like briefly, if they are interested in having you like do something on TV, they can like see you on TV elsewhere and know that you can do a good show. That's more of a reel, I think, for that. You don't need to have like a full show like you would for a venue.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that's really interesting that you're inviting them to kind of write more and dig a little more too, as well as just giving them all the information. You're
Yeah, because
you,
like
yeah.
most outlets have a certain style of voice. For example, like I'm a freelance journalist and editor, and I've written for a dozen publications, and I can tell like all the voices are my voice, but they're all through the lens of that publication.
Right.
So a story in like outlet A is my story, but the sound of it sounds like it's from that publication. Whereas outlet B, maybe they're a bit looser or whatever. I'm going to be more my personality shines through. It has a different tone.
Right.
But you can almost tell by reading some of mine if you're familiar with the outlets, like which one was in like outlet A versus outlet B.
Right.
So it's like an unnecessary work on your part to try to figure that out yourself. That's sort of the other person, the editor or journalist's job. But you just have to give them the details, sort of the foundational blocks for them to pull together.
Right. And then what's the wrong thing to put in that material that rings a bell for a I mean, I know this is your own personal judgments, but you've done a lot of this. What are the things to look out for? What are the things that a reporter shakes their head and goes, no, no, this is some goofy story someone's looking for publicity for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my personal opinion, but I think
Right.
like being like, here is an article I wrote for you. Feel free to just take it. Thank you. Like that's just like it's not helpful. Like I appreciate where that's coming from, and I appreciate the initiative to, trying to think you're making someone's job easier, but it's really just not helpful to the person on the other end because they're gonna have to change it anyway, and it's just not generally appreciated across. So like across. So speaking from a writer's side, like for example,
Right.
um, I never pitch full stories to any outlet. It's always just a pitch about the story. That's sort of a separate topic, but it's the same principle applies there. Um, I think if there is no photo assets or it just looks sloppy, like it has to look professional.
Right.
Um, so if there's just some badly photoshopped image that they sent along that sort of rings a bell that maybe this isn't like the caliber of for better or worse, it could be the best show in the world, but if all I'm seeing is this poorly put together photo that doesn't speak well to the act.
Right.
I think those are probably the two biggest red flags I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reminder too. We're talking about. I know that people occasionally need publicity themselves, but publicists and people who write press releases are usually people that have a background in journalism. I think that's still safe to say is true today, right? Most of the stuff you're getting, you hope anyway. Yeah,
Probably,
yeah. And
probably, yeah.
so they are. I mean, those people are aware professionally of what they're trying to get across. So just be aware that it's not be careful of an amateur effort, I think is the way to say
Yeah.
this.
And make sure you're sharing the basic facts, like when is the show? How much are tickets? Where is a link where people can buy tickets?
Right,
Where's your link? So like make sure to have all the essential facts in that press release so that it's easy to pull out.
right, right. Good point. All right. Well, this is great. Thanks again for all of the stories that you've been putting in the magazine, and good luck. And I hope every month is more than you need for all of our sakes. And we'll see you inside the pages. And thanks for the articles you've been working on as well. We'll see your name on some of those coming up as well.
Okay, great. Thanks. Take
Thanks.
care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
I've always thought that one of the great uh, unsung stories in magic is the story of the Vernon Foundation. And I know about it through my associations with the Magic Castle, the board of directors, and being president. Um, it's always been run by a great group of people, and it's always been doing amazing work. And to that point, it's currently being run by its president, Dave Egan, who's one of my oldest friends out here in Los Angeles. And Dave is with me right now, and I've asked him to talk a little bit about what the Di Vernon Foundation is. If you've never heard about it, you're going to be really surprised. If you have heard about it, I think you're still going to be surprised. Um, Dave, I know it's associated with the castle, but it's not really part of the castle, right?
Right.
There's a group association there.
Yeah, it started Joan Lawton started this ages ago, 32 years ago. Um, and she ran it, helping out friends and other people at the castle. And its endowment has grown, its reach has grown to now we're helping people all across the country, regardless of their organizational affiliation. Uh, we are a separate 501(c)(3) from the Magic Castle. We don't get oversight by the castle. The castle has been generous to us in giving us grants at times, and we appreciate them. But we're doing our own thing.
And you just recently we just read about it in Genii in the news because of the Los Angeles wildfires. And
Right.
so you've been involved in charitable work for performers that have lost things from homes to their acts to their livelihood in terms of that.
Right. Tragically, people have lost homes, lost cars, lost the tricks in their working repertoires, uh, and we've been able to help people in all those situations. And it's rewarding work to do. It's collecting money from people that want to help support their fellow magicians and giving it to deserving people who are in difficult situations.
I think we've all we were talking a little about this before that our heroes in this world of magic are not always people who have been financial successes. That's not always what drives our heroes into this profession is not their love of money. And I think that we've all known magicians who have at various times come up short or needed a little bit of help. And it's interesting that there's an organization, and it has been an organization for 32 years, with a very responsible board of directors and leaders that look at these situations and are able to help.
Right.
How does someone give us the website information? We'll link to it, but
Sure.
how this is all set up and how people can get in touch with it.
It's divernonfoundation.org/grants if you want to go to the page that uh, has the grant application on it. There are two kinds of grant applications, by the way. There are the financial grants that we give to magicians in difficult financial circumstances. There are also the educational grants. We just gave scholarships to 8 young magicians to attend Tannen's Magic Camp, where they come back thrilled about magic, learning from the best of the best, and excited to embark on a new career. Too excited sometimes. We've had a couple say, I'm ready to drop out of school and become a professional magician. And we have to say, no, you're not. You got to finish school first.
Right. No, it's great. And then if someone, the other half of it, if someone wants to give a little money that might go to
Oh,
someone else.
we'd love that. Divernonfoundation.org. There's a PayPal link there.
Yeah.
Our address is also there if somebody wants to send a check. Uh, we uh, uh, we are not a paid board. Nobody involved with the organization makes money off the organization. So all the money we collect from donors and our fundraising goes directly to helping people who are in need.
Right. And I know from the years of knowing Joan, when they were working on this, it's the way that all these charities work is that, this isn't something that is always publicized that you always talk about. I know
Right.
the scholarships, the kids going to Magic Camp, that's a great story, and you can talk about that and who those kids
Sure.
are. But I know very often these payments are made quietly,
Hmm.
to people who have suffered some kind of loss. And so a lot of this happens behind the scenes and without a lot of ta-da and without, horns blowing. And I think that that's a really important thing for people to realize. You might not be hearing about what the Di Vernon Foundation is doing all the time, but they're doing it all the time.
Right.
And it's a great thing to be associated with that.
Yeah. To some people that magicians out there would know, who have faced difficult circumstances. I don't want to get into specifics, but uh, we help the average working magician, somebody in the local neighborhood who does local shows, kids shows, birthday parties, uh, other kinds of performances, to working pros who've been in Las Vegas or other big stages, depending on what their needs are.
Right. Right. And you said that, I mean, you just replaced an act for somebody that allowed them to go out and start their livelihood again after these fires in Los Angeles.
Exactly. A guy called us and told us that his home was destroyed in the fire, and all of his money was going to pay the difference between what the insurance company would cover and what the replacement of the home was going to cost. And he didn't have money to replace his act. And would we help? And we did.
Yeah.
We gave him all the tricks from his working repertoire so he can go out and perform again, which
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah, it is. They're all individual cases. I know from talking to Joan about it over the years and knowing all you guys, they're always individual cases. They're always done with a sense of understanding and compassion. And again, there's very little fanfare about it,
Right.
which is, I think, why people don't know about it, but I think people should know about it. It's a great story in magic.
Thank you.
How long have you been associated with it?
I've been around the group for about 3 years.
Mhm.
I've been the president of the group since June of last year,
Okay.
and
So you landed right at the right time or the wrong time for these fires, I guess.
yes,
Right
yeah,
time to
it
get the work
was the
done. Yeah.
middle of that. Um, we have had great stewardship over the years. Joni was a tremendous help to getting this off the ground. Stephen Levine was a great president that got us through the pandemic years. Dennis Farrell got us through the end of the pandemic to the present time. And I've been able to take over an organization that's in great financial shape,
That's
uh, growing both in its reach and its ability to help, which I think is exactly where we want to be.
Yeah, yeah. When I was president, I used to talk to new members about the castle, and I always used to use as the example, everyone would always say, "Oh, the club is so political, and there's so much infighting, and there's so much going on. I wish it could just be like the old days. Everything was simple in the old days."
Hmm.
And one of the great things about the old days was, we all know, we're old enough, Dave, that we remember the stories about Bill Larson, who would reach in the cash register and give a few $100s to an old magician who was sitting at the other side of the bar, who said,
Right.
"I have trouble paying the rent this month." And Bill would say, "Oh, here we go. Let me see what we can do for you."
Hmm.
And of course, that's what everybody loved about the castle, was it was run like that. And what I used to tell members was, we can't do that anymore.
Right.
It's a real corporation. It's a state corporation. It has a board of directors. It has rules and regulations. But the great news is that we have enshrined some of those things. We can enshrine that thinking. The castle has difficulty doing it, but this group, the Di Vernon Foundation, has been set up by people who can do this now, who can
Right.
take that sort of generosity that sort of, let me help you out attitude, and can actually formalize it and make it work. And
Right.
it's one of the great things I think that's come out of this is that attitude actually being made real and being represented by people through this process.
Yeah,
And
we're still fortunate to get help through the castle. Recently, the AMA gave us a $50,000 matching grant to
right,
help people who were affected by the fires. And we put up a banner stand in the lobby of the castle, inviting guests to make matching donations. And through the membership and guests, we raised an additional $50,000, which is going right out the door to help those people who were affected by the fires.
it's fantastic.
And those people will need help on an ongoing basis. We helped a couple of weeks after the fire. There was a big event at the castle where they gave away everything from toilet paper to shoes. Uh, and those people got what they needed in that moment, but maybe they don't know how much they need until the dust settles a bit.
Right.
And so we've set it up so that people can come back to the well multiple times to get help at different stages of their recovery from their loss from the fires.
Right. Right. Now it's really a great example, and I'm so grateful to you guys for doing this, and grateful for you talking about it to our readers. I think that for all those people to whom the name Di Vernon, means a lot of magic, and we all have benefited from that. This is yet another little magical aspect to that name when you
Right.
hear it, that there are people that have been inspired through this and inspired through Vernon's original legacy and the continuing legacy and what people are doing today. So
Right.
thanks very much, Dave, and thanks for joining us with this. And
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a
absolutely.
pleasure.
Thanks.